Am I the asshole for putting my mother-in-law in her place after she tried to replace me and take my baby away? I don't think I've ever felt a kind of confusion that sharp before. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It was quiet, disorienting. Like my brain couldn't quite process what my eyes were seeing. Because that was my baby, and I hadn't even held her yet. But let me back up, because if I start there, it sounds like I married into a nightmare. The truth is, it didn't start that way, not even close. I married Miles when I was 25. He was steady. That's the word I always used. Not flashy, not overly romantic in a grand cinematic way, but dependable in a way that made you feel safe. The kind of man who remembered small things, who noticed when you were overwhelmed before you even said anything. And his mother? She was the reason I said yes so quickly. I know that sounds strange, but if you've ever had a bad experience with in-laws, you'll understand how rare it is to find one that doesn't treat you like competition. From day one, she treated me like a daughter, like something delicate she wanted to protect. She cooked for me constantly. She'd show up with homemade meals saying, just in case you didn't have time today. She reminded me to take vitamins. She'd comment on how thin I looked and insist I eat more. At first, I thought it was cultural. Then I thought it was just her personality. Looking back now, I think it was something else entirely. But at the time, I felt lucky. The only thing that ever made me pause was how often she brought up babies. Not in a pushy, aggressive way. Never like, you need to have a baby now. It was softer than that, more planted. You and Miles would have such beautiful children. I can't wait to hold my grandbaby one day. You're still young, but it's never too early to think about family. It was always wrapped in a smile, always followed by something caring, like handing me fruit or adjusting a blanket around my shoulders. So I brushed it off. Of course she wanted grandchildren. That was normal. All in-laws go through the phase where they only wish to play with grandchildren after retirement. Miles would usually laugh it off too. Mom's just excited about the future, he'd say. And I believed him. For a while, we weren't even trying. We were both building our careers, settling into married life, enjoying the quiet rhythm of being just the two of us. But eventually, the conversation became real. And when I got pregnant, everything changed. Not in a bad way. At least, not at first. She cried when we told her. Full-on tears, hands over her mouth, hugging me tighter than she ever had before. I'm going to take care of you, she said. You won't have to worry about anything. And she meant it. By the second trimester, she had practically moved into our lives. Not officially at first. It started with staying over a few nights a week. Then it became most nights. Then she just didn't leave. She took over the kitchen completely. She managed grocery lists, meal plans, even what I was allowed to eat. No caffeine, no processed food, no stress. She monitored my sleep. She reminded me to walk, to stretch, to sit properly. If I even looked tired, she'd insist I lie down. Miles didn't question it. Honestly, neither did I, because it worked. My pregnancy was perfect. No complications, no major discomfort, no stress. Every doctor's appointment went smoothly, and every time we got good news, she'd beam like she had personally insured it. You see, she'd say, this is how it should be done. I remember laughing once and telling Miles, your mom is basically running a 5-star pregnancy retreat. He laughed too. Neither of us thought to ask why she was so invested. By the time I reached my final month, she was fully living with us. She had reorganized the house, set up the nursery herself, picked out things I didn't even remember agreeing to. But again, it didn't feel malicious. It felt helpful. Overwhelming sometimes, sure, but helpful. And I was tired, pregnant, emotional, so I let it happen. Then came the delivery. I opted for a scheduled C-section. Not because of an emergency, but because my doctor recommended it as the safest, most controlled option based on my situation. I wanted everything to be smooth, predictable, safe. The surgery itself is a blur. I barely remember the bright lights and white walls, the strange pressure of knowing something huge was happening while you couldn't feel pain. Miles was there, holding my hand. And somewhere in that haze, I heard it. My baby crying. I don't think I'll ever forget that sound. Relief hit me so hard I started crying too. She's here, someone said. She's healthy. I remember trying to ask if I could hold her, but everything after that started slipping. Voices got distant. My body felt heavy. Someone said I needed to rest. When I woke up, the room was dim, quiet. For a second, I didn't remember where I was. Then it hit me all at once. The surgery, the baby. I tried to sit up too quickly, wincing as pain shot through my abdomen. Hey, easy. Miles was beside me instantly, gently helping me settle back. Where is she? I asked. My voice sounded weaker than I expected. She's here, he said quickly. She's okay. Relief washed over me. Can I hold my baby now? I asked. But that's when I saw her. Across the room. In my mother-in-law's arms. At first, that didn't feel wrong. Of course she was holding the baby. She was family. But then my brain caught up with what I was actually seeing, skin to skin. My newborn daughter pressed against her bare skin. Not mine, not even Miles's bare chest, just a thin blanket that covered both the baby and my mother-in-law. And the room was so calm about it. Like nothing was out of place. Like I was the one who had walked into something I didn't understand. Why? I started, but the words didn't come out right. Miles hesitated. Just for a second, and that hesitation, that tiny pause set something off in me. I asked to hold her, I said, my voice sharper now. My mother-in-law looked up, smiling. Oh, sweetheart, you needed your rest, she said gently. You've been through so much. That tone, soft, reassuring, like she was explaining something obvious to a child. I'm her mother, I said. The room went quiet. Miles shifted beside me, and for the first time since I met her, my mother-in-law didn't immediately step back. Instead, she adjusted the baby slightly, almost instinctively, like she was settling her closer. "I know," she said, "but bonding is important. She needs warmth." Something cold crept into my chest. "She needs me and my warmth," I replied. That's when she finally handed the baby over. Slowly. Reluctantly. And maybe I imagined it, but it felt like she held on just a second longer than necessary. Like she didn't want to let go. The moment my daughter was in my arms, everything else faded. Her tiny weight, her warmth, the way her fingers curled so instinctively. I felt something snap into place inside me. Like this invisible thread had finally connected. This was mine. My baby. My responsibility. My world. But even in that moment, even as I held her for the first time, I could feel it. That shift in the room, subtle, unspoken, but real. Like I had just interrupted something. Like I had taken something back that someone else thought they already had. And I didn't understand it yet. Not fully. But that feeling? It didn't go away. If anything, it only got stronger from there. If you've never brought a newborn home, it's hard to explain how surreal it feels. Everything looks the same, but nothing is. The couch you used to nap on casually now feels like a place you might accidentally fall asleep and drop something precious. The kitchen you used to move through without thinking suddenly feels like a place full of hazards. Even silence feels different. Too loud. Too expectant. And in the middle of all that, there's this tiny human who depends on you for everything. I should have been overwhelmed in a normal way, tired, emotional, adjusting. Instead, I felt like a guest in my own home. Because my mother-in-law came back with us. Not in a "I'll stay a few nights to help" way. In a "this is where I belong now" way. "I'll just stay until you recover properly," my mother-in-law had said as we were being discharged. "You shouldn't be alone during this time." It sounded reasonable, responsible even. Miles agreed immediately. "It'll be easier for you," he told me. "You won't have to do everything yourself." And I, still sore, still foggy, still trying to process everything, didn't have the energy to argue. So she came home with us, and at first it looked like help. She took care of meals again, kept the house spotless, handled laundry before I even noticed it piling up. She'd remind me to take my medication, bring me water, adjust pillows behind my back so I could sit comfortably. On the surface, it was everything a recovering mother could ask for. But underneath that surface, something was wrong. It started small. The first night home, the baby cried. That sharp, sudden cry that makes your entire body react before your brain catches up. I had just started to shift, wincing as I tried to sit up, but my mother-in-law was already there. Faster than me, faster than Miles. She lifted the baby from the bassinet with practiced ease, holding her close, rocking gently. "I've got her," she said softly. I froze for a second. It wasn't what she said. It was how natural it sounded. Like this was already an established routine. "I can hold her, it's all right." I started, but the words felt slow in my mouth. "You need rest," she replied, not even looking at me. "Your body is still healing." The baby quieted almost immediately in her arms, and I sat there, watching, telling myself it was fine, helpful, temporary, but it didn't stop. Every time the baby cried, day or night, she was there first. It didn't matter if I was closer. It didn't matter if I was already reaching. She would appear, like she had been waiting for it. Sometimes I'd wake up to the sound of crying, and by the time I pushed myself up, she'd already be in the room, whispering soothing words, cradling the baby against her chest. "I didn't want you to strain yourself," she'd say if I questioned it. And again, on paper, it sounded caring. But there was something else there, something I couldn't name yet. Then came the feeding. I had decided early on that I would bottle feed. It was a personal choice, a practical one for me. The only decision I had made for the sake of my own health and sanity. Rest, all of my decisions were based on the baby's best interests. My body had already gone through surgery. I wasn't in a place, physically or mentally, to handle anything more demanding. My doctor supported it, Miles supported it, but my mother-in-law watched. That's the only way I can describe it. Every time I sat down with the bottle, she would be somewhere nearby, not interrupting, not openly criticizing, just watching. Her eyes would follow every movement, the way I held the bottle, the way the baby latched onto it, the way I adjusted her position. And there was something in her expression that made my chest tighten. Longing. That's the closest word I have. But it wasn't soft longing, it was sharp, almost bitter. "You know," she said one afternoon, her voice casual as she folded laundry beside me, "natural feeding creates a stronger bond." I kept my eyes on the baby. "I've made my decision," I replied. She hummed lightly, like she hadn't expected a different answer. "I understand," she said. "Of course, it's just some things are instinctual." I didn't respond, but she didn't stop. "If you tried, you might find it comes naturally to you," she continued, "and it would be beneficial. For the baby." That's when I looked up. And for just a second, I saw it clearly. Not concern, not advice. Something else. Something that made my stomach twist. "I'm fine with how I'm feeding her," I said more firmly this time. Her smile didn't fade, but it changed, just slightly. "Of course," she said again. But from that point on, the comments came more often. Subtle, persistent. "You're missing out on something very special. It's what mothers are meant to do. I would have done anything for that opportunity again." That last one stuck with me. The way she said it. Like it wasn't just a statement. Like it was a loss. and somehow I was the reason for it. There were moments, small, fleeting, where it got worse. Once I walked into the living room and found her holding the baby close, her face buried near her head. She didn't hear me at first, and what I saw in that moment, it wasn't just affection. It was something deeper, heavier, like she was trying to soak in something that wasn't hers. When she noticed me, she straightened immediately. "Oh," she said lightly. She was getting fussy. The baby wasn't crying, she was asleep. I was just comforting her. I nodded slowly, but something in me had already started pulling back. The problem was I didn't know how to explain it. To Miles, to my parents, to anyone. Because nothing she was doing was technically wrong. She wasn't hurting the baby. She wasn't openly disrespecting me. She was helping. That's what it looked like. That's what it sounded like. So why did I feel like I was being pushed out? And it doesn't end there, because while all of this was happening, I wasn't okay either. Not even close. Everyone talks about postpartum depression like it's just sadness, like it's crying a lot, feeling overwhelmed, maybe a little disconnected. That's not what it felt like. It felt like fog. Like I was moving through everything half a second too late. Like my emotions were dulled in some moments and unbearably sharp in others. I'd sit there holding my baby and feel this intense love, and then immediately after, this crushing wave of guilt for not feeling enough. For not being faster, for not being better. And every time my mother-in-law stepped in before me, that feeling got worse. Because it fed into something ugly in my head. Maybe she's right. Maybe I'm not doing this right. Maybe the baby is calmer with her. Maybe I'm the problem. I hated those thoughts. But they didn't stop. And Miles? He saw pieces of it. He'd ask if I was okay. He'd tell his mom to give me space sometimes. But he never really stepped in. Not fully. He stayed in the middle, trying to keep things calm, trying not to upset either side. And I get it. I do. But when you're in that state, tired, emotional, unsure of yourself, neutral doesn't feel neutral. It feels like you're alone. One night, the baby started crying around 2 a.m. I woke up immediately. For once, I was faster. I pushed through the pain, got out of bed, and made it to the bassinet before anyone else. I picked her up, held her close, and started to soothe her. For a brief moment, it was just us. Quiet. Simple. Then I heard footsteps. I didn't even have to turn around. "I've got her," my mother-in-law said softly from the doorway. Something in me snapped. "I've got her," I repeated firmly. There was a pause. A long one. And when I finally looked up, her expression wasn't soft anymore. It wasn't warm. It wasn't even neutral. It was cold and bitter. And for the first time since all of this started, I felt it clearly. This wasn't just help. This wasn't just care. This was something else. Something that had been building quietly, patiently right in front of me. And I had a feeling I was only just starting to see it. I didn't realize how quickly help could turn into something suffocating. At first, it was easy to justify everything my mother-in-law did. She was attentive, present, involved. If anything, most people would have called me lucky. But there's a difference between being supported and being replaced. And that line? She crossed it so slowly, so quietly, that by the time I fully saw it, I was already drowning in it. It started with interruptions. Small ones. Manageable ones. I'd finally get a moment alone with my daughter, just sitting with her, adjusting her blanket, tracing her tiny fingers, and within minutes she would appear. "Oh, there you are," she'd say, as if she'd been searching. Then she'd sit close, too close. Her hands always reaching out. "Let me hold her for a bit." Or worse, she wouldn't ask. She'd just take. Gently, of course, carefully, always with that same soft tone that made it hard to call out. "You must be tired. She looks a little restless. Let me soothe her." And if I hesitated, even slightly, there'd be that look again. Not anger, something quieter, but heavier. Like I was withholding something I had no right to keep. Like I was keeping her daughter away from her. One afternoon, I remember sitting on the couch feeding my baby. She was calm, content, her tiny hand wrapped loosely around my finger. For once, my mind wasn't racing. For once, I didn't feel like I was doing something wrong. And then, "She has my eyes," she said. I looked up. My mother-in-law was standing across the room watching us. But she didn't stop there. "She feels like mine sometimes. A carbon copy of me," she added, almost thoughtfully. The words didn't hit me immediately. Not until she stepped closer and sat down beside me. Then she reached out, brushing a finger lightly against the baby's cheek. "I finally have a daughter," she said. Just like that. Casual. Certain. My stomach dropped. "You have a granddaughter," I corrected. She smiled. But it didn't reach her eyes. "Yes," she said slowly. "But it's the same thing, isn't it?" I didn't answer. Because I didn't know how to respond to something that didn't make sense. Something so complicated while still drowning in my postpartum fog. Plus, in a way, I didn't want to acknowledge what her words could actually entail. I was afraid to face anything more complicated than the already complex motherhood I was experiencing at the moment. Miles noticed the tension. Of course he did. He wasn't blind, but his response wasn't what I needed. "She's always wanted a daughter," he told me one night, his voice low, careful. "You know that." I stared at him. What does that have to do with my baby? He exhaled slowly, running a hand through his hair. It's not like that, he said. She's just connecting. By acting like she's the mother? That's not fair. I laughed then, not because it was funny, but because I didn't know what else to do. Then what is it? I asked. Explain it to me, Miles. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like your mom thinks this is her second chance. That the baby I gave birth to somehow belongs to her? He didn't respond immediately, and that silence said more than anything else. She used to say things when I was younger, he admitted finally, about how she wished things had been different. A cold feeling settled in my chest. What things? He hesitated. That I was supposed to be a girl. The words hung in the air, heavy and uncomfortable. She never said it like she regretted me, he added quickly. Just that she always imagined having a daughter, dressing her up, raising her differently. And now she thinks she gets to do that with my child? I said, my voice sharper than I intended. She doesn't think that, he said, but it sounded weaker now, less certain. I looked at him for a long moment. You're defending her. I'm trying to understand her. And what about understanding me? That hit. I saw it in his face. But even then, he didn't fully step in. And that was when I realized something that made everything worse. Miles wasn't just trying to keep the peace. He was carrying guilt. Deep, ingrained guilt. The kind that comes from growing up being subtly told you weren't what someone wanted. And now he was trying to make up for it, through my baby. Things escalated after that. Faster, more obvious. She stopped pretending to ask before taking the baby, stopped framing everything as help. Instead, she just acted, like it was her right. If the baby cried, she didn't wait. If I was holding her, she hovered or took the baby away, saying that whatever I was doing wasn't helping the baby, that my practices were wrong. If I left the room with the baby, she followed. And she started talking to the baby in ways that made my skin crawl. My girl, she'd whisper, I waited so long for you. I'll always take care of you. At first, I told myself she would get over her obsession, that her actions must be tolerated until the first 40 days of postpartum, that after that she would go back home and we will all collectively get past it, that I needed to stay calm. But then, there was the kissing. We were not aware of it at all. The doctors had been clear, strict even. No one kisses the baby, they said. Not on the face, not on the hands. Her immune system is too weak. I took that seriously. Every precaution mattered. Every risk felt bigger now that I had something to lose. So I enforced it. No exceptions. Not even for family. Even Miles was instructed not to kiss the baby until she turns 2 months old. My mother-in-law nodded when we explained it. Of course she did. She always nodded, always agreed, always smiled. And then she ignored it. The first time I saw it, I froze. She was holding the baby, rocking her gently, and then she leaned down and kissed her forehead quickly and softly, like it meant nothing. Don't, I said immediately. She looked up surprised. It's just a kiss, she said lightly. The doctor said no one kisses the baby. I'm not no one, she replied. My chest tightened. That doesn't matter. She sighed softly, like I was being unreasonable. I raised a child, she said. I know what I'm doing. And I'm her mother, I shot back. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then she gave a small nod. Of course, she said. But I didn't miss the way her jaw tightened. After that, she was more careful, not in stopping. She just got better in hiding it. I didn't always catch her. But sometimes, I'd walk into a room too quietly, or turn around too quickly and I'd see it. A kiss on the cheek, the hand, the top of the head. Each time my stomach twisted. Each time I felt that same helpless frustration. Because confronting her never led anywhere. She always deflected, minimized, turned it into concern. Miles brought it up with her, tried drawing a boundary there, but she always dismissed us. You're being too anxious. New parents worry too much. The baby needs affection, and I'm simply giving it. And slowly, that doubt crept back in. Was I overreacting? Was I being too strict? Too controlling? I hated that I even questioned it. But that's what constant undermining does. It wears you down piece by piece until you're not sure what's reasonable anymore. The night everything went wrong didn't feel like anything special. Just another evening. The baby had been a little fussy, but nothing unusual. I had finally managed to get her to sleep. Miles was in the other room. And for once, the house was quiet. I remember sitting there, watching her chest rising and falling. Her tiny face relaxed and thinking, maybe things are settling down. Maybe I could find a rhythm. Maybe I could start feeling like her mother again. I don't know how long I sat there, but at some point, I got up just for a moment to grab water, to breathe, to exist outside that constant tension. It couldn't have been more than a few minutes. 5, maybe, 10 at most. When I came back, she was there standing by the bassinet, holding the baby, and before I could even process it, she leaned down and kissed her. Not just once, but again and again, slow and lingering, like she was savoring it, like she couldn't get enough of it. Stop, I started, but my voice caught. She looked up, almost startled. It's fine, she said quickly. She's asleep. The baby stirred and made a sound next moment. Not a cry, not at first. Something was off. My heart dropped. What was that? The sound got sharper and strained, her tiny face scrunched, turning red. Then, she started crying, but it wasn't normal. It wasn't the sharp, loud cry I was used to. It was weaker and choked, like she couldn't catch her breath. "Give her to me," I said immediately, my hands shaking. My mother-in-law hesitated just for a second, then handed her over. The moment I held her, I knew something was wrong. Her body felt different and tense, her breathing uneven. "Something's wrong," I said, panic rising fast now. I called out for Miles loudly in a panic. He was there in seconds. "What happened?" "I don't know, she's not breathing right." The baby let out another strained cry. And then, she didn't. Silence followed, the kind that makes your entire body go cold. "Call emergency," I said, my voice breaking. And just like that, everything spiraled. Paramedics took her from my hands and asked questions I couldn't answer. And through it all, one thought repeated over and over in my head. This wasn't supposed to happen. I told her. I told my mother-in-law not to. But it was too late. Because whatever line had been crossed before, this time it didn't just feel wrong. It felt irreversible. I don't even remember the drive to the hospital. I remember fragments. Miles's voice, tight, controlled in a way that meant he was barely holding it together. The sound of my own breathing, too fast, too shallow. The empty feeling in my arms was the worst part. Not holding her. Not knowing if I'd get to again. The ER was chaos, bright lights, fast footsteps, questions fired at us before we could even process what was happening. When did the symptoms start? Was there any exposure? Any contact with anyone sick? I couldn't answer. My brain felt like it had shut down. Miles tried. She was fine, but she started crying, then her breathing. They took her from our site and into the emergency room almost immediately. No hesitation, no reassurance, just urgency. And that terrified me more than anything. People always talk about waiting rooms like they're just uncomfortable. They're not. They're torture. Every second stretches. Every possible outcome runs through your mind whether you want it to or not. I sat there staring at the double doors they had taken her through, feeling like if I looked away for even a second, something worse would happen. Miles sat beside me. Silently, completely still, and my mother-in-law stood a few feet away. For the first time since I met her, she wasn't speaking or hovering or trying to take control of anything. She just stood there frozen. Her hands clasped together so tightly her knuckles had turned white. I didn't look at her. I couldn't, because if I did, I didn't know what I would say or what I would do. When the doctor finally came out, I felt my entire body lock up. You don't breathe in those moments. You don't move. You just wait for words that feel like they'll decide everything. "She's stable," he said first. And I swear, I almost collapsed right there. But he didn't stop. "Her immune system is still extremely weak," he continued. "At this stage, even minor exposure to external bacteria or viruses can trigger severe reactions." My chest tightened. Was she exposed to anyone who had close contact with her? Kissing, especially? The question hung in the air, heavy and sharp. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. Because I already knew. Miles's hand tightened around mine as he confirmed the doctor's suspicion. My mother-in-law was already looking at me. And for the first time, there was no softness in her expression, no justification, no calm reassurance, just fear. Pure, undeniable fear. She started, her voice shaking. "I didn't think—" I looked away. I couldn't listen to it, not now, not when my baby was behind those doors. The doctor kept talking, explaining things I was trying desperately to absorb. "The reaction she had indicates her system was overwhelmed," he said. "We've stabilized her condition, but there are complications we need to monitor." "What kind of complications?" Miles asked, his voice strained. The doctor paused, and that pause felt like a warning. "There may be long-term effects," he said carefully. "Nothing immediately life-threatening, but her immune response has been impacted. She could be more vulnerable moving forward. Recurrent infections, sensitivities, things that will need consistent management." My ears rang. Long-term because of something preventable, because of something I had explicitly warned against, because someone who claimed to love her thought they knew better. I don't remember crying. I think I went numb. Miles asked questions, important ones, about treatment, about what we needed to do next, about how to protect her. I just sat there trying to process the fact that my perfectly healthy baby was now going to carry something for the rest of her life. Something she didn't choose, something she didn't deserve. When they finally let us see our baby, she looked smaller than before. The steady beeping sound that felt both reassuring and terrifying at the same time. I stood there for a second, afraid to even touch her, like I might somehow make things worse. Then I stepped forward slowly and carefully. Then I placed my hand against hers as her tiny fingers wrapped weakly around mine. And that was when everything broke. I don't know how long we stayed like that as the three of us, me, Miles, and our baby. But at some point, I became aware of someone else in the room, and there she was, standing near the door, but she didn't come closer, didn't speak, didn't reach out, and just stood there like she didn't belong anymore. And for the first time, she looked exactly how I had been feeling for weeks, like an outsider. "I'm sorry." Her voice was barely above a whisper, but no one responded. "I didn't think this would happen." She tried again, her words breaking. "Stop," Miles's voice cut through the room firmly. I had never heard him sound like that before. "She told you," he said. Each word was controlled and sharp. "The doctors told you. And you still did it." My mother-in-law didn't argue nor defend herself because there was nothing left to say. Her shoulders sank slightly like something inside her had finally given out. That's when she fully realized what she had done. The illusion she had been living in shattered completely. She didn't look like someone who thought she was the mother to my baby anymore. She looked like someone who had lost something and knew she deserved to. We didn't fight. There was no screaming, no dramatic confrontation, because some things don't need noise. They're final on their own. When we got home, it was quiet, different from before. Miles didn't hesitate. "We need space," he said. Not just to his mom, but to the situation and everything else. And for once, he wasn't standing in the middle. He was standing with me. She didn't argue, didn't try to stay, didn't try to fix it. She just nodded slowly, like she had already accepted what was coming. "I understand," she said. And I believed her because there was nothing left for her to misunderstand. After that, she was gone. No more hovering, no more help, no more presence in the house that made me feel like I was replaceable. Just silence and the long process of adjusting to our new reality. Doctor appointments, precautions, care routines all became a new part of daily life. Our baby was okay. She smiled, responded, and grew. But there were things we had to be careful about now. Things we wouldn't have had to think about before, and every time I am reminded of why. As for my mother-in-law, she never came back, not once. She apologized over calls and texts over and over again, sometimes long messages, sometimes just one line. "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to hurt her. I'll do anything to make this right." But she never showed up unannounced, never crossed a boundary again. In fact, she went further than that. She stayed away completely out of guilt and shame, knowing that her presence might not be welcome anymore. Miles doesn't talk about her much now. When he does, there's something different in his voice. Not anger, not even resentment. Just distance, like something fundamental changed and can't be undone. As for me, I don't know what to feel anymore. Some days I think about how she cared for me during my pregnancy, how she made everything easier, how she showed up when I needed support, and I wonder if that version of her was real, or if it was always leading to this. Other days I look at my daughter, at the medical logistics we have to manage now, at the precautions we can never relax around, and I feel something else entirely. Something heavier and harder to let go of. She keeps asking for forgiveness, says she'll accept any conditions, any boundaries, any distance, as long as she can be part of our lives again, even in the smallest way. Not because she's still obsessed with my daughter, but because now she finally realizes the worth of her own son and his family. Her care for me was never deception. Her greed for a daughter, however, was far more consuming, which she deeply regrets now. And honestly, I don't know what to do. Because what she did wasn't just a mistake. It wasn't just crossing a line. It changed something permanent. My daughter would be the one to live with the consequences of her grandmother's sickening actions. So now I'm here, asking people who don't know me, who don't know any of us, who don't know the full weight of what happened. Am I the asshole for cutting off my mother-in-law entirely and reminding her of her place, which is far from us?
Thanks for watching. If you liked our videos and want to see more of such content, subscribe to my channel and hit the like, share, and comment icon down below. These story plots are entirely original, and the entire process is reliant on one woman efficiency. To grow and support this community, follow me on TikTok and Instagram. Thank you.